I was at mile 17 of the Appalachian Trail when I saw her for the first time in 32 years. I wasn't supposed to be there that October, dame. My daughter had insisted I cancel the hike because of the rain forecast. But something inside me, a restlessness I couldn't name, pushed me onto the trail that Monday morning. Sarah was standing in a clearing, gazing at the valley below as golden leaves fell around her like silent confetti. She wore a green jacket I didn't recognize, but her posture was unmistakable, slightly leaning forward, as if she wanted to take in the entire landscape at once. At 53, her gray hair was tied back in a loose ponytail, and there was a grace in her movements that time had refined, not diminished. My heart stumbled in my chest before my mind could fully process it. I stopped a few feet away, unable to decide whether to move forward or quietly retreat down the trail. That's when she turned. Our eyes met, and the whole world paused. I saw recognition cross her face, like light through water. First confusion, then surprise, then something that looked like pain and joy at the same time. David. Her voice still had that soft quality, as if every word were wrapped in velvet before being released. Sarah, her name came out hoarse, carrying 3 decades of absence. For an endless moment, we stood there, 2 strangers who had once known every unspoken word of each other, separated by feet that felt like miles. Then she took a hesitant step toward me, and I did the same. "I can't believe it," she said, and a laugh escaped, not from amusement, but pure astonishment. "Of all the trails, of all the days, you still hike the Appalachians," I said. And it wasn't a question. Of course she still did. She had brought me here the first time when we were 21, when the entire world seemed to be just the 2 of us and these eternal mountains. Every October, it's like a personal pilgrimage. She set her backpack down and sat on a smooth rock. I joined her, keeping a respectful distance that felt both necessary and absurd. "And you? I thought you swore never to come back after that storm in '89. I laughed, surprised she remembered. "My daughter convinced me. She said I needed something to take my mind off the divorce." "Ah." Sarah looked at her hands. "I'm sorry, David. It was 2 years ago. I'm getting by. And you? Widow. 3 years. Her voice was steady, but I saw the shadow cross her face. "Richard was a good man. We had 26 years together." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable, but it was dense with all the questions neither of us knew how to ask. I watched an eagle circle lazily above the valley, its wings spread against the October sky. "Do you still take your coffee with 3 spoons of sugar?" Sarah suddenly asked, a smile touching the corners of her mouth. "You remember that?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. "I remember everything, David." Her voice softened. "Every stupid, perfect detail." My throat tightened. "Me too." And then we began to talk, cautiously at first, like climbers testing each foothold before trusting their weight. She told me about her 2 children, now adults, one a doctor in Boston, the other a teacher in Portland. I told her about my daughter Emma, who worked in environmental conservation and had just given me my first grandchild. Sarah showed me pictures on her phone, and I showed her mine. And for a moment it was almost normal. Almost as if there weren't a 3-decade chasm between us. "Do you still write?" she asked, catching me off guard. "Not in years." After the publisher rejected my third manuscript, I just gave up, went into marketing. The admission hurt more than I expected. Sarah frowned. But you were so talented, David. Those stories you used to read to me in the college library. They were youthful dreams, I said quickly, wanting to change the subject. And you, still doing occupational therapy, retired last year. Now I volunteer with veterans, help them reintegrate through art. She looked at me. It's still about helping people find their hands again. In a way, I remembered how she had bandaged my hand when I cut it, building that ridiculous bookshelf in our tiny apartment. How gentle, patient she'd been while I cursed my own incompetence. You always knew exactly who you were, I said quietly. No. She shook her head, gazing at the valley. I spent years trying to convince myself I'd made the right choice. The air between us changed, heavier now. Sarah, my parents were right. You know, about the scholarship in Chicago, about the opportunity being too good to waste. I built a good life, helped many people, raised wonderful kids. She paused, her voice softening. But not a day went by that I didn't think of you. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I began, then stopped. What could I say? That I'd married Linda 6 months after Sarah left, desperately trying to fill the hole she'd left behind. That every woman after her was measured against a memory I couldn't let go of. I was so afraid, Sarah continued, the words tumbling out faster now, as if she'd kept them buried for too long. Afraid that if I stayed, I'd resent you. Afraid we wouldn't survive the real world. So I chose the safe option, the approved option, and spent 3 decades wondering what if. You were my what if too, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. When Emma was born, I wished you were there. When I published my first article, small as it was your face I saw in my mind. When my marriage fell apart, I stopped, not trusting my voice. Linda once told me she always knew she wasn't you, that I had a place in my heart with your name written on it. Sarah turned fully toward me now, tears glistening in her eyes. Richard said something similar. In the end, when cancer had taken everything but his clarity, he told me to find you. He said life was too short for regrets. Why didn't you? The question came out harsher than I intended. Why didn't you? She returned gently. I had no answer. Or maybe I had too many fear pride. The inertia of ordinary life. The belief that the past should stay in the past. All of them felt inadequate now. Sitting here with autumn leaves falling around us like silent blessings. I almost did, I admitted. 10 years ago, I was in Chicago for a conference and passed by the hospital where you worked. I stood outside for 40 minutes, trying to gather the courage to go in. Sarah exhaled shakily. What month? April. Why? I was in Portland that month, visiting my daughter. She had just had my first grandson. She laughed, but without humor. God has an interesting sense of timing, or maybe it wasn't the right time, I said, surprising myself. Maybe we needed to live our lives, make our mistakes, raise our children. Maybe we needed to become these people before we could find our way back to each other. Sarah looked at me for a long moment. Do you believe that? That there's a plan? The tears finally fell from her eyes, tracing silent paths down her cheeks. I reached out there, 2 years of hesitation in my arm, and wiped them away with my thumb. Her skin was softer than I remembered, and the simple touch sent a wave of memory through me so strong, I almost drew back. "I'm so afraid," she whispered. "Afraid we're romanticizing the past. Afraid we're not those people anymore. Afraid of ruining the perfect memory I've kept for so long." "We're not those people," I said firmly. "I'm not the arrogant 21-year-old who thought love was enough to conquer the world. You're not the girl so afraid of disappointing her parents that you chose duty over your heart. We've become something else. Maybe something better. And if we're not compatible anymore, what if what we felt was just youth and hormones and—" "Sarah," I took her hand, interlacing my fingers with hers, with a familiarity that transcended time. "I don't know if this will work. I don't know if we can bridge 3 decades. But I know I can't spend the rest of my life wondering. Not again. This time, I'll fight." She squeezed my hand, and something in her broke not shattered, but softened, like ice melting after too long a winter. "I still live in Chicago. You're still in Asheville for now. But Emma's been pestering me to move closer to her in Charlottesville. That's only 3 hours from Chicago." Richard left his law practice. "I have resources. Freedom." She paused. "I always loved the mountains more than the city anyway." "Then we start slow," I said, barely daring to believe the words leaving my mouth. "Calls, visits, finding out who we are now, not who we were then." "Slow," she agreed, but there was a smile on her face now, genuine and hopeful. "We have time. We finally have time." We sat there as the afternoon deepened into richer gold, talking about everything and nothing: her grandchildren, my garden, the books we loved, the places we wanted to see. We discovered we'd both developed a love of birds, that we both woke early to watch the sunrise, that we'd both found comfort in prayer as our marriages unraveled. "I prayed to forget you," Sarah admitted, as the shadows began to lengthen. "For years, I prayed for God to take you out of my heart, so I could be fully present for Richard." "Did he answer?" "Not in the way I expected. He didn't take you away. But he helped me understand that love isn't finite. Loving you, even from afar, didn't mean I loved Richard any less. It meant I had a heart big enough for both." She looked at me. "And now, somehow, he's brought us back together. Not to erase the past, but to write a new chapter." I thought about that, about Linda, about Richard, about all the choices and roads that had taken us away from each other, and somehow, miraculously, back again. "Maybe that's what forgiveness really is," I said slowly. "Not erasing what happened, but allowing something new to grow beside it." "We have to forgive ourselves too," Sarah said softly. "For all the choices we thought were wrong. For all the years we thought were lost. They weren't lost," I realized aloud. "They brought us here, made us able to appreciate this." I squeezed her hand. "We can't get those 32 years back, but we can have every day from now on." The sun was low now, painting the sky in shades of amber and pink. Sarah stood, pulling me up with her. For a moment we stood there, hands joined, looking at the vastness of the mountains that had witnessed our first love and now our reunion. "When?" she asked. "When can I see you again?" "This weekend, next week, tomorrow." I pulled her closer until there was no space between us. "Sarah, I've wasted decades. I'm not wasting another day. She leaned into me, her head resting where it always fit, in the space between my shoulder and my heart. This is my pilgrimage hike, she whispered. Every October, I come here and remember what we lost. But maybe this year, I found what I was looking for. Not lost. I corrected gently, my lips against her hair. Just taking the long way back to each other. We stood there as the sun sank behind the mountains. Two survivors of lives lived and loves lost and found again. We didn't have all the answers. We didn't know if this would work. If we were fools for believing in second chances. If time could truly be kind enough to grant us this. But we knew this. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing love in spite of it. And after a lifetime of safe choices and approved paths and carefully guarded hearts, we were finally ready to be brave. Let's walk back together, Sarah said, picking up her backpack. Together, I agreed, and the word carried the weight of a promise. We walked down the trail side by side as the first stars began to appear. Our steps naturally in sync, as if our bodies remembered this dance even when our lives had forgotten it. And there, in the twilight of the Appalachian Mountains, with crisp autumn leaves beneath our feet and decades of longing finally dissolving into possibility, we learned that the most beautiful stories aren't the ones without pain or loss, but the ones where love, patient, persistent, miraculous, finds its way home again. It wasn't the ending we'd imagined all those years ago. It was something better. It was real.